No.
No. I just wondered if that would be something, you know. I don't know what a camera costs, couple hundred bucks.
Well, I mean, the camera that is right down on the AED, so if somebody were to approach it, take it,
I
we'd have
got
the
you.
footage.
So does that camera that videos them, does it go back to our people? That it does, okay.
I have it all.
Gotcha.
I don't have anything else.
So I have a couple, I think 2 slides, just of all the other things that so City Hall, like many of the condos, was having spalling issues. We did a big project last year to repair all of that. The windows were leaking, so we did a big project to reseal all the windows at City Hall. The flooring was still the original flooring from 2004 when the City Hall was first occupied. So if you come in now, you'll see all new carpeting. I believe it's in the budget to do the lobby, and that's tile right now, and the inside of the elevators matching tile, and I believe that's in the budget to do this year. 2 years ago, we did the community center balcony restoration, so it was all kind of a tan color, and we did that, for lack of a better term, that epoxy covering. We had some cracking on the second floor up there. We sealed that, recovered that. I think it turned out beautifully. We replaced the roof at Public Safety and the bay doors on the fire bay. And then inside the fire bay, the trusses, I don't know if you remember any time about 2 years ago, they were rusting bad, so we had a group that came in and removed the rust, resealed them, and so hopefully those will be good for quite some time. One of the things we've had an emphasis on is putting in place continuing services contracts. You have 2 on the agenda for tonight. My philosophy is if the AC breaks, I want to call an AC contractor, not do an RFP for them to come in and fix it. So that's the idea in my mind of why we have continuing. So we have engineering, architect. Tonight it's minor construction. Building services as well.
So Kurt, explain that a little bit. So if we have someone already that we've offered them a contract, does that cost us anything, like on a yearly basis, if we never use them?
No.
Or just- okay.
No, they're just, it kind of expedites the purchasing procedures. So we do the bid under the sunshine laws and all of the either CCNA or anything, and it just allows us to expedite that process for whatever the issue is. The minor services one, we were hoping to get more direct AC, plumbers, electricians, those type of things. So we're going to probably do some other ones, but trying to get it where we have these contracts in place. We may never need them, but they're in place. And if we do, again, instead of having to go, okay, we need to look at our purchasing ordinance and see what do we need to do. Is it 3 quotes or an RFP versus, hey, Mr. Electrician, please come fix this.
Does the towing that we approved a couple months ago, does that go under continuing services, or what is that?
That's just a separate contract that we bid. And so we're trying to add to those, and we'll identify other ones as we go. So you'll be seeing hopefully more of those in the future, especially for the direct trades, like the plumbers, the electricians, those. One of the other big things that we are doing is Stuart's floor over at City Hall has a whole new software package that is going to be a lot more user-friendly, will allow individuals to look up their permits online. So a lot of the questions, like when I went out with Commissioner Card, a lot of the businesses or even condos have been like, how do I look? And my answer has always been, well, just call Stuart's office. They'll be glad to tell you. It's all public records, so call, we'll tell you where it's at. With this, they're going to be able to just log in and get online and look. But it's building permits, code enforcement, fire inspections, planning, and then we use a certificate of use process for businesses, so that will be part of it as well. This past year, our old HR applicant tracking software, for whatever reason, the company said we're not going to provide that anymore. So we implemented a new program. Commissioner Card, you alluded to number 8 earlier. We had a free assessment done from, I don't remember if he was an architect or an engineer. Chief, was he an architect or an engineer that did that assessment for us? Architect that came in, met with staff, and we talked about all the things down at Public Safety that needed improvements, and some wish list items like the range, and he gave us that assessment. So we have that. Now, what do we do with it? Many moons ago, when it was Chief Dembinski, not Commissioner, he asked for us to implement as a retention tool for public safety to implement the take-home vehicle program. So I'm proud to say this year we finally are fully loaded with vehicles to fully implement that program. It's been a few years coming, but it happened this year. As I mentioned, we also implemented the Just FOIA public records software. So now anytime anybody does a public records request, it goes in there. It's searchable. Public can view it. You can see who's, that's all online. As you're aware, we implemented the electronic commission meeting software where you vote electronically, you ask to speak electronically. We added that. And we talked about number 12, FDOT is improving crosswalks and resurfacing A1A. That's probably in our next budget year. It's not our budget, but time frame. And this is really tiny. But I'm hoping you can sort of see it. But these are all the grants that we have applied for. So the first 3 are the hurricane mitigation grants. One is so we're in process, I believe it's tonight, are they approving the contract for the design on an EOC? That's a $3.9 million grant. There's Hurricane Ian grant money for a community center generator. If you're not aware, we have a generator on this building, but it only powers this room. So we wanted to upgrade that to power the whole facility following a storm. So that was a grant for $120,000. Hurricane Nicole, we have 2 grants there for generators and hurricane shutters at City Hall. And then Hurricane Idalia, this will probably change to Milton money rather than Idalia. I believe only $4 million was allocated for Idalia, which is open to all the cities. Additional sewer improvements, and then I mentioned the resiliency study that we did get for $130,000. And then we have a whole bunch of sewer ones, and they're big dollars. We received IT cybersecurity grants from the state the last 2 years, $15,000 a year, so I just listed that as $30,000. I mentioned the AEDs, the opioid task force, if you remember, gave us a $25,000 grant for a hands-free CPR assist device, and then we received $50,000 towards AEDs. So the AEDs, I'm told, at the parks are going to be upgraded to the new AEDs, and those will be recycled out to other locations. So that we've received about $75,000 total. I put it in here twice, the resiliency study. And then the 2 legislative asks. So if we were to get all of these grants, that's $36 million that we are trying to request, and there's a pretty good chance that we're going to get at least half of that, closer to 20 to 26. Now, I do want to point out, my next slide, I kind of highlighted these. All the sewer projects, that's $30.5 million. We have received the 5.6, I think it is, from the Transform 386 monies. We're waiting to hear on our DEP grant. There's a pretty good chance, we've been approved for the I always say it wrong, SAFI grant for 14.5, but we haven't seen the contracts on that one yet. So we're waiting on the contracts. They'll come before you for approval and acceptance of that grant. You'll see I have SRFL. You already voted on that. It's a state revolving fund loan. That's the principal forgiveness loan. It's being run through a loan program, but we don't ever have to pay it back. So don't be confused that we're we're going to have to carry that. Unfortunately, it's going to look like we have debt on our financial statements, even though we're debt-free. It's going to look like we have debt in the future because it is a loan forgiveness program. Did I say that correctly, Lori? Thank you. So sewer-wise, to Vice Mayor Politis' point, we're well on that. Thank you to the commission in the prior year for approving the expenditure on the capital improvement plan. If we get all of these grants, what was going to be a plan that I thought would probably take us 10 to 15 years to be able to fully implement, if we get all these grants, we may have them all implemented in about 3 to 4 years. So, and it'll be almost a completely new or fully updated sewer system. So,
Well, I think this is fantastic news. Again, going back to how I received the message, you don't apply for a lot of grants. Look at all of these, and that's fantastic. Is it Lori that's doing most of the grants?
a lot of the sewer stuff, she focuses on the financial side of it. Actually, she fills out a lot of it, but Stuart as well. He's the knowledge base on the, as a former finance director, and I think Lori will attest this, we don't know a whole lot about sewer. We get the gist of it, but we know it costs a lot of money. But so they work heavily together, but all the staff.
Well, thank you all. I mean, that's fantastic when I look at all these numbers here. And again, like you said, if we only get a portion of them. Are most of these 50-50 match? Well, you talked about the one loan, are they all over the board? I know you said the one forgiveness.
So the 14.5 million, that's just straight money, no match. The Transform 386, Lori, there was no match on that, correct? Correct. The DEP grant, I believe, has a match component. Is that the DEP grant?
Yeah, that we've already included in the budget and other things. We were doing 1.6.
So a lot of our matches are already, yes, included in the current year budget. That DEP grant, just for a little bit of history, it's last year we did a legislative ask. And it got through both the House and the Senate, and the governor vetoed it. Because they said, well, there's all this money in DEP. So we took that ask, amended it, because that was $1.5 million, maybe $2 million project, amended it based on the state's, some of their recommendations about the grant program, turned into $6.4 million. So we're waiting to hear on that one as well.
Is that the one that, well, I think it was Representative Leak at the time said, apply for this,
Yes.
they're not doing
Yes.
here? Okay.
And now I've heard rumors that there may be another bill this session that would reappropriate for our original ask, but I'm just staying in communication with our lobbyist Doug Bell on that they may reappropriate and fund those projects if the DEP money doesn't get approved. It would obviously be the lesser amount that we asked for last year, but Tallahassee's interesting right now. If you've been following any of that, I'll leave it at interesting. It's going to be a challenging year. I was trying to stay away from like SWOT analysis tonight on our goals and things facing the city, but I do want to point out one major thing that has me very concerned. There's a lot of talk about doing away with property taxes. There's bills that add like $100,000 exemption to every property out there. I don't know where it's going to go, but every city, if there's any major change to our tax, property tax system, it's obviously going to have an impact. And one of the bills even says, amend the tax system this way. How? Through budget cuts. Now, that's the state telling us to cut our budgets, is what it is. So I've lived this back in 2007 or 8. My first year as a finance director, the state came in and said, everybody is rolling their budgets back, your tax collections 3 to 9%, depending on how aggressive you were in the previous 3 years. I don't know what the Shores was rolled back then. I didn't look that up, but my former city, we were rolled back 5%, which for that city was about $500,000 at the time. That was a lot of positions, and that's what it took to balance the budget then. So while I want to keep us looking forward, I just want you to be aware that the state may hit us hard. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm sure Paul has heard this at other cities as well. So, I mean, there's a study or a bill that says do a study that wouldn't be, impact us this coming budget year, probably the following year, but to completely remove property taxes from the state.
So if you're speaking with any of our legislators, any of our representatives, we need to impress upon them about how devastating it would be for them to take away the property tax. Can you do analysis of, what I said was they talked about, well, they'll just put it on the sales tax. Well, when you think about it too, there's a nice to have and a need to have. I think it would really affect the economy. I mean, I'd probably buy what I need, but what happens nice
I've
to
heard
have?
numbers, and not to get sidetracked from this, but I've heard numbers that it would take a sales tax of anywhere between 20 and 30% to replace property taxes for local and county level governments. So I don't see that, and I don't see the citizens voting to go to a 20 or 30% sales tax here in Florida.
Was there a plan B, though, instead of looking at the property tax, they were going to adjust the homestead in some way?
There is a bill. It's, Lori and I have looked at it. It's horribly written, doesn't clarify. It just says every property gets a $100,000 exemption. It doesn't say is that in addition to
Or instead of?
existing exemptions, or is it instead of? The way we read it, it's every property, commercial, otherwise, gets a $100,000 exemption. We'll see what they do. I just wanted you to be aware that there is a movement at the state, and the last time I heard this type of movement, again, following the housing market collapse of 07, 08, the state did take action, and it did negatively impact. There were basically massive government layoffs, municipal government layoffs across the state.
And just as FYI, there's a Monday morning call that the Florida League of Cities puts on, and they go over what's happening, how they see things going. So if anyone ever wants to join that call, it's from 9 to 10?
It starts at 9, and then depending on how they
Yes.
usually try and expedite it, but it starts at 9.
Go over every one of the bills that they see as problematic, and sovereign immunity was another big one, but we don't need to go into that right now.
So the last thing I had was, and this is more of a budget question, but kind of hit on some of these things: service changes, new services you'd like to see us provide, or any desired capital projects. And I know I'm kind of springing this on you, but we have another meeting in April, so you might look and go, hey, why are we doing this way?
I did have a question.
Yes.
Sort of along those lines. In the agenda, it talked about, I guess, a safe room for public safety building.
Yes.
Public, and have you guys thought about anything like that for City Hall? And I know you may not have a place to do it, but where the staff sits on the ground floor, is that hardened, the
So
plexiglass?
the
or-
idea behind the EOC is that in an event, we'd actually all be in the same place. So right now, we have people out back at Public Works, we have people in City Hall, we have people at the Public Safety Building. The idea with that, what they call a safe room is what the state defines it. We're calling it an EOC, Emergency Operations Center, where we would all be together so we're all on the same page.
Okay, so it's not
What's
what I
happening.
envisioned as a safe room.
It's not just yes, I mean, it's true EOC with, all that together, so we're all working together and not in different places.
Chris, were you more worried about, that we had some people coming in
Yes.
threatening and doing ever, so you're more concerned about the first floor?
Right.
That's
Right.
he's going.
So, I mean, where they sit behind the plexiglass, is that hardened? Can that be strengthened, or what? Have
Oh,
you guys
you're
thought
actually
about
talking
that?
like a security
Safety,
issue?
yes, a safety, yes.
That is not, that is just, I don't know if it's plexiglass or just glass. Yeah,
And
it's just
actually, they
glass.
have free reign to go onto the second floor, so it's almost the second floor would be in this, it's only the third floor that's locked down,
Yes.
so it would be the same thing.
So, we can look at that. That'd probably be a budgetary issue to budget it for next year.
The one thing is we do, I'm sorry to be talking out of turn, but we do have a back door in the finance department. So even with the IT department, so any of your departments down on that first floor have exits
Okay.
in their actual departments.
Second floor. Anything else that we would like to see, just throwing out ideas out?
We have the same city, the same issues that we've had for, ever since I've been here. And they're a wonderful city, but it's,
To Commissioner Dembinski's point, I did go back and look at some of the older strategic plans. There was one from '99 that kind of addressed a lot of the same issues. West Side, crosswalks, our typical issues. They're challenges, and as long as we stay focused on them, it hopefully will change.
I think to Commissioner Economist's point, as I remember that meeting, we had it upstairs, it seemed like so many people were comparing us to New Smyrna, the walkable area and all that, and to his point, we are what we are.
Yes.
So if you keep that in mind with what we do have, what can we do, instead of envisioning, because we're never gonna have a Flagler Avenue, a Canal Street.
Yeah, we don't have a downtown. We don't have that. With some right investors, there might be able to way to create a destination location. And that's what I call those places where people go, and you can go down to New Smyrna and go, let's go down to dinner there, and you have options. Here you have to go, oh, I'm going to go here for this meal. I want to go to Riley's to get a Coney dog, or I want to go to Millie's, because they've got their fresh fish sandwich today, or whatever. You're choosing to come to one location versus, hey, let's go to New Smyrna tonight. And maybe there's a way we can, find the right investor or investors to develop a destination location. We've talked about it as part of the Economic Development Council. When Councilmember Frizzalone was on there, we talked about those things. It's just, when you talk to those investors or developers, unfortunately they go, what's your traffic count? And our traffic counts just aren't there. That's just a fact of our city. They're just not there.
At one time, we even envisioned, and it's Port Orange, but underneath the bridge, maybe if we could do something on that section of Dunlawton, maybe putting a parking garage in and, building up that area.
We had a guy that came in and was going to try to work a deal to get a different building for the county because he wanted to build a parking garage on the county's piece of land there and develop it with like first floor retail stuff. But unfortunately, like a lot of developers, they come in with these pie in the sky dreams and it went nowhere.
So what other new services or any other projects do we think that we would like? And again, you brought this up right now. I guess this is the first time most people are seeing it. So maybe if it's something that we think about, and then we can either get back.
Absolutely. So I think that kind of leads to the next slide. So I want to go through next steps. So April 3rd at 6 p.m. and April 4th at 10 a.m. We'll do something similar with the citizens and try and ask them the same questions. What would be your desires for this city? Again, excluding Parks and Rec, because on April 15th and 16th at 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. as well, we're going to be talking just Parks and Rec type programs.
Open to the,
Those 4 dates are all where we want citizen engagement. It'll be in the Pelican. Nancy Maddox has some flyers for both those events that we'll be handing out. It'll be in the Pelican. We're going to send it out through Constant Contact, through the city's website, for those who signed up, to receive those notifications. And then, based on your direction last time on April 22nd, we have an 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. meeting where we will summarize the results of the April 3rd and 4th meetings with the citizen feedback, and bring that back to you for your review. And we'll discuss that and kind of incorporate that into this framework. And then we'll look at bringing back a final kind of written form at the May 4th, the first meeting, regular commission meeting in May. Is it 6th? Okay. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions? These meetings obviously are open to the public, to anybody there. They will be noticed that one or more members of the commission may be in attendance, so you're welcome to come. I will ask, though, that, I think I said this at the last meeting, that we'd ask you to listen more than participate. Citizens tend to defer to all of you, so I want to hear their ideas. No offense intended. I'm hearing yours tonight. I want to hear theirs on those dates. So please attend, but just listen.
Anything else? I mean, so are you through?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? So again, this is a workshop. You know, we never get the chance to talk because of sunshine. What other things would we like to bring up that you wish that we could talk to each other about and we're not able to?
Just one, in the presentation you made, Kurt, one of the items was about the flooding that we had during the past, the storms and stuff, and some kind of study or survey was incorporated in your presentation.
So there's the vulnerability
Okay, yeah.
assessment that will highlight
Okay.
all those things. Now, we did have, I believe it was La Paloma and Esperanza.
Yes, those were the trouble
So on Esperanza, that's a county stormwater system. But I have had discussions with the county about asking them to, that's what they call a localized basin, about them doing a project there with Transform 386 monies.
Okay.
But it's their system, it'd be their project to do.
No, thank you.
But
Because those are the people that came to me and were complaining
yes,
about the flood.
so I'm in discussions with the county about hopefully doing something there. I'm not sure what the answer is because it is a very localized basin, but they've got much smarter engineers at the county level than me. So I'm just trying to push them and stay on top and have them do something with their system.
That also flooded either Ian or Nicole, didn't it? Said that area has been.
Nicole, yes.
Okay.
Much worse during Milton, but yes, it had some, I say, lesser flooding. If it's your home, there's no such thing as lesser flooding, but yes.
Hey, anything else? One of the things I wanted to bring, so service anniversaries, we always did at the meetings here. And then somehow, I don't know how it happened, we transferred them, we're doing it coffee with the mayor. I'd like us to give the, if everyone's in agreement, give the employee the option of either A, doing it here, you know, at a commission meeting. I think the reason why it was moved to the coffee with the mayor was that there's, they like to have their peers there. Some of their peers get off work 3:30 or 4:30 and don't want to come back. So, you know, that was one of the reasons. And then two, we want our residents to celebrate them. So later on today, if we take away staff and all of our spouses, we probably only have about 10 or 15 people here of our residents. So if we could, going forward, I'd like you to give them the option, either A, they can just get their certificate from their supervisor and not come at all. B, do it at night here at a commission meeting, or do it with coffee with the mayor, and always including their peers, the invitation. Does anyone have a problem with that? I know we were kind of playing around with that, and you know, whatever works out, it's their service anniversary, so I want them to have the choice.
My issue is, Mayor, that I don't usually have the opportunity to go to coffee with the mayor, mainly because it's your coffee with the mayor, and the more council people, more commission people are there, there's a sunshine law issue. I'm not saying it would take place, but it could. And I've always liked the idea that, and I'm only speaking of the officers, like, 'cause they would show up here for a few minutes, and I always got a kick out of that. But I would defer to the rest of the commission on that, but I like doing it here.
I'm fine with that.
With doing it here all the time or giving them the options?
Either way, I mean, if it's whatever's convenient for the officer, but I think, I like the more formal aspect of the commission meeting, personally, but again, I would leave it up to the individual.
And just, not just officers, it's for any.
Yes, any person, correct.
All right. Vice Mayor, do you? have
I
any
think you're
preference?
being kind. I think you should just go ahead and make a decision, and then they'll deal with it. You know, I mean, after all, we are the administrative, legislative body for the city. If you think it's nicer to have it here in front of citizens and the city commission and more formalistic, I think that's what you should decide.
As an employee, that's gonna be your choice anyways, whether you even wanna show up.
Right.
If you don't think it's worthwhile showing up for the people that honor you, well, I feel bad for you.
Commissioner Card, do you have any preference?
No, I don't.
All right, so, again, it seems like the commission's thinking a little bit more that we do want it to be a little bit more formalized, that we're recognizing here, because the Coffee with the Mayor is a very more casual. If their peers want to show up, they can show up, and if they don't, then they'll still have their supervisor here to give them the award. So after further discussion, let's move it back to how it was previously, that we did at the commission meeting. Okay. And then, one other thing, that I did want to mention. So, last month I went to Ponce Inlet, had a state of the town. And then this past, and Commissioner Card was there too, we had the state of the county. That's something I'd like to look at doing. Now, what we do, I do not have Coffee with the Mayor in the month of June. I want it to be about the staff. I want people to meet the staff, put the names with the faces, just so, and they say what they've accomplished, a little bit of their background. I want to expand it a little bit more, so it's probably not worth it to do a state of the city in June after 6 months are done. I'd like to just start to do something like that in a January or February timeframe. And what it looked like for a city was that the police chief, our chief got up and just said, how many violations they had, how many tickets they did, what's new in finance, just so again, one of the things we talked about is transparency on the goals that we had. I mean, that would be fully transparent. This is where we are. This is, and maybe something like this. This is how many grants we applied for. This is how much money we got. So right now in June, we will be doing something for the staff part of it. Do you feel like it would be worthwhile to talk about what's happened in 2024, what we've done year-to-date in 2025, or just hold something over to that to 2026, like a state of the city? Any feedback?
I think once you sophisticate the strategic planning that we did today, then I think that'd be a better item for the agenda for the presentation of the State of the Union. Here we are, and here's where we're going.
Okay, all right. So do you think, since we're gonna have it done in April, that could be something in June that we can do that night?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
All right,
so.
so just talk about, we've had these meetings, here's more or less the recap of it, and then, again, how we've done before. Each one of Kurt's direct reportees have introduced themselves and what falls underneath them, and if you need help with this, this is who you go to. Or something like that? Okay. Commissioner Card, what did you think of the state of the county? Was that so you knew where everyone was at, where their goals were, what they want going forward? Was that beneficial to you?
It was my second time there. I took away a lot of information from it, but it was well-run, and you get to see the leaders of the county, so it's kind of nice to see everybody. So, yeah, I took away, it was a well-run
Okay, so, and we have a couple months to talk about it, so maybe in the June one, again, you know, I will not have coffee with the mayor, it's gonna be meeting the staff, talking about the staff, and then we'll add on what came out of the visioning meetings, what everyone in the city wanted to see as their vision. So those are the only other two things that I wanted to talk about. Anything else that you want to talk about now that we're having this time? Commissioner?
No, I'm
Kaminsky?
good.
No. Commissioner Card? Commissioner Conover? Vice Mayor?
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, I think this was a very helpful session. Thank you so much for coming this evening, and